Hello again. I'm sure that many viewers were shocked to see the most senior member of Chinese consular staff in Britain, the Consul General in Manchester, beating up a protester. After a demonstration against the Chinese regime had been held outside the Chinese consulate, some members of staff rushed out into the street and dragged one of the demonstrators into their premises and began beating him. The consulate general himself was filmed punching and kicking the man. Of course, he has diplomatic immunity, but we could certainly order him out of the country. Instead, it seems that Britain is afraid to make waves. Last month, we learned that the Chinese are, with the permission of the British government, running secret police stations, both in London and Glasgow. The Chinese authorities have established 54 overseas police service centres, as they're called, around the world, including 3 in this country and others in Africa, Nigeria, for example. There is one such secret police station in Croydon, one in North London and another in Glasgow. They're based in Chinese-run businesses such as estate agents and restaurants. They claim to offer advice on things like visas and consular matters, but their real aim seems to be to track down expatriate Chinese and try to persuade them to return to their own country, or at the very least to discourage them from getting involved in protest movements in this country against the Chinese government. This has all been done with the seeming cooperation of the British, who seem nervous lately of doing anything to antagonise China. The latest example of Chinese interest in Britain, and this really is an aggressive action which verges on subversion, is to offer former RAF pilots very large sums of money to go and live in China for a fixed period to train the Chinese Air Force, to train aircrew there. Of course, the Chinese Air Force doesn't really need any tips on how to operate their aeroplanes from the British, and that's not the object of the exercise at all. What the Chinese are really doing is debriefing these former pilots on the capabilities of British aircraft and also what tactics and strategy are being currently developed in the RAF. This would give them the edge if there was ever any combat, say over Taiwan or in the South China Sea or anywhere between Britain and China. Thankfully, the government in this country has decided to draw the line at this, and they're planning to bring in a new law to prevent this sort of thing happening in the future. It's all very well for us to be taught that Russia is a terrible menace and that we all need to fight in Europe to defend places like Ukraine and Estonia. But all the while, the Chinese are quietly establishing a colonial presence in Africa and are engaging in all kinds of questionable practices right here in this country. I can't help but feel sometimes that we might have our attention being drawn to the wrong enemy. As usual, in the description to this video, I give links to various sources, news items about what I've been saying.